last season you had not necessarily standout individual contributions in terms of a match-by-match basis, but there was a lot more consistency in terms of the contributions. This year, you had a series of individual standout contributions, but it seems like there was a lack of consistency from start to finish from the domestic players, specifically the USA guys like Monak Patel, who had a couple of centuries, but then there were some periods of lack of runs. How would you evaluate the impact that your domestic players had last year compared to this year in terms of where you finished the season?
I think you can't you can't sit and blame the domestic players. I think as a whole, internationals included, we weren't consistent enough across this campaign, and by the players' own admission, they'll be disappointed that they couldn't at least make the final of this competition. It was a season of, we showed some glimpses, but we could never tie all the skills together in one game, unfortunately. So no credit to them. They played exceptional cricket tonight, especially Faf. He took the game away from us. His captaincy was outstanding tonight as well, in combination with his wonderful innings. And Devon Conway, just the rock as he always is for them this campaign. But, we disappointed. With a lot of learnings that have taken place the last 2 years. I'd say we'd love to win every competition, but sometimes, these events, they don't allow you to slip up, and we'll have to come back stronger next year.
Smith Patel from Cricket Buzz. 2 questions. What was the thought process behind kind of demoting Monak Patel at number 4 or at number 5 at times even, just because he's played on the opening spot all his life for America? And how much did the rain play a part out there on the pitch as well as on the outfield for the result of this game?
Yeah, I think the first part of that, Monak, you have to be adaptable in T20 cricket. I think Monak has shown that in the middle order, he's got most of his 250s, across 2 seasons that come in the middle order. So he's a type of player that can knock it around, use his experience and his leadership. So we thought that responsibility would fall on his shoulders with his skill set he possessed. Every now and then he'd move down the order. That's just, in-game strategy that, you try and counter the opposition with sending in a more of a power player. So, nothing, not a reflection, towards his skill set. But he played very well in the middle order, and maybe something he should consider going forward in his career, I think. Sorry, the second part was?
How much did it rain?
Oh, yeah.
As well as the outfield.
Yeah, of course, it did play a little bit of a role, but we're not going to use that as an excuse. We probably didn't field well enough. Even with the rain, there were still 7 chances, of run-outs, caughts, catches that we should have taken to make this game a little bit more competitive. So, we won't use that as an excuse. It did play a little bit of a role, but we still created opportunities, I thought, to snatch that game. It's just one of those things. Sometimes you have a little bit of you're on the wrong side of the weather sometimes.
Greetings from Badpod USA. Since these are 2 of the most promising franchises in world cricket, do the boys feel extra pressure when they face each other on the ground?
No, certainly that's not the conversation. I think everybody knows the history between Mumbai Indians and CSK franchises. That rivalry will always be there across the franchise, across the globe. But definitely not pressure. I think you definitely have a sense of excitement for the guys. They don't view it as pressure. They see it as an opportunity. And there's certainly a different edge, leading up into these types of games. So it's always a privilege to be involved in these type of games, to be honest. So, anytime you can participate in it and do well, I think, that gives players a lot of joy.
Coach, just going back to the domestic players again, your first 2 draft picks, Stephen Taylor, Ruben Clinton, not in the 11th night, over the course of the season, their returns, in a sense, justify that. What did you see over the course of the season that led to the point where your 2 top domestic picks, ostensibly guys you want to be playing every match, if you pick them in the top 2 rounds of the domestic player draft, get to a point where you can utilize them in a playoff match?
Yeah, I think, sometimes you can't predict someone's form. So that happens in these tournaments. It's pretty ruthless franchise cricket. If you don't get off to a good start, you could sort of spiral a little bit. So we just felt that, Cheyenne did well for us last year, and we needed a bit of impetus with Devil Brevis at the top of the order. So no reflection on Ruben or Stephen. We just felt that that was a combination that would serve us well in this game. They're obviously talented players. They'll contribute in future, I'm sure, at some point in MLC. So that's not a reflection of them. Yes, sometimes tournaments don't work out for individuals, and they can hold their heads up high. They tried hard, they worked hard. They were still great team players off the field, even though they were not part of the starting 11. So, a lot for them to reflect on and to see where they can improve.
So as a follow-up on Stephen Taylor specifically, kind of like Monarch, he's always open to bat for USA. His role for this team is a little bit more ambiguous. How did you draft him? What did you envision when you drafted him? Did you draft him more as a batter or as more of an all-rounder who could bowl if you was a spin, and what wound up happening in terms of what you envisioned versus what the eventuality was?
Yeah, I think his batting pays the rent and his off-spin is the hobby, if you want to put it that way. But he's drafted as a batsman. Your currency is runs at the end of the day. So, he was probably a little bit short there, Stephen. But, he's got a lot of reflection to do. And I'm sure a lot of those conversations on where he can improve have happened behind the scenes. So he'll come back stronger.
Do you concur with the observation that the gap between the domestic batters and the international batters is a lot more than the gap between the domestic bowlers and the international bowlers? Or is the pitch, the kind of pitch that we have, helping the bowlers to narrow the gap?
I think from a batting perspective, it's always going to be difficult when you're not facing high-quality fast bowling, week in, week out, like guys from Australia, South Africa, England, West Indies, India. So I think that's always going to be the challenge for, the local players, and that's the difference in this league. There are guys bowling at serious pace, and sometimes, it takes a little bit of time to adjust to that. So unless you face it week in, week out, it's not nice to face. So it takes a bit of courage. But you can only get better at it when you face it week in, week out, even at training and in game. So that's probably something that, where the domestic batters don't have the luxury of having that type of preparation, within minor league where they play. So, but it's something they've got a taste of it now for the last 2 years. And, there are alternative ways how to train for it. So, hopefully that, they can implement that in their training. And as MLC progresses, we'll see these guys get better and better, as the tournament gathers momentum.